Lesson 12 Review, Precursors, Introduction, Memory Text. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, NKJV. This week's lesson covers the example of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It also covers the example of the experience of the early Christians. These examples highlight remarkable courage and provide keys to finding peace of mind under the most trying of circumstances. These circumstances will come in the last days upon those who will seek to be faithful to God, but Christ has admonished us, "Let not your heart be troubled." We are not to be fearful, but hopeful. What is the historicist's approach to the prophecy of Daniel 2? The historicist's approach has to do with the fact that the prophecies go from one world empire after another until God establishes his kingdom which shall never be destroyed. How should the prophecies of Daniel 2 be understood? The study of the prophecies of Daniel 2 demands that we use the historicist approach where the prophecies go through history in an unbroken sequence of empires, starting in antiquity and ending in the future, even to our time. What significance can be found in the fact that the statue was all gold? King Nebuchadnezzar set up the golden image to signify that Babylon would never fall. Nebuchadnezzar will always be king. Anybody who dared to challenge that idea was faced with death penalty. How does Nebuchadnezzar display characteristics of Lucifer? Nebuchadnezzar displays ambitiousness, self-importance, and pride enough to rebel against God's authority. In what way is Nebuchadnezzar different from Lucifer? Nebuchadnezzar eventually came to faith in the true God, and it is likely that we will meet him in the kingdom he originally fought so hard to defy. What lessons can we draw from the Hebrew boy's defiance of the king? Faith can demand that we go completely against the directives of authorities, even at the risk of our lives. We are not to compromise, but stay faithful, who are God's people called to worship. God's people are called to worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and springs of water. Revelation 14 verse 7, NKJV. How does the test of the Hebrews boys reflect the condition of the world in the end? We are to worship God alone, the one who not only created us, but redeemed us. The Hebrew boys desired to only worship this same God, even when the king ordered them to worship the golden image. This is similar to what will happen in the end with the call to worship the image as opposed to the Creator. What elements of the story in Acts 12 verse 1 to 17 might foreshadow last-day events? James was beheaded, and Peter was to be next, but Peter was set free. Some believers in the time of the early church were spared, others were killed. As we approach the end time, the same thing will happen, but we are comforted with the hope that all who believe in God will be saved. What issue caused the religious leaders to want to kill Jesus? The religious leaders wanted to kill Jesus because he went against their traditions. They sought to kill Jesus because of human tradition. This is close to what we can expect in the last days, human law versus God's, and, in both, the contested law centers on the biblical Sabbath. In conclusion, the Hebrew boys were threatened with death if they did not worship the golden image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. James was killed for his faith in God. Peter, too, was killed. As we approach the end time, believers will be persecuted for their faith, but just like Peter, we are to follow Christ, even when it can lead to death. May God help us to keep his commandments and have his faith, in Jesus' name.